Hey everyone, how's it going? I hope you're all doing great and following the 3 H's of the channel. In this video, it's all about terrifying tales from Eastern Europe. So, definitely pull up a stump for this one, and let's get into it. Thank you for watching. So this story happened in 2006 on January 10th during preparations for Orthodox baptism of Jesus here, called Vedici. Usually it involves a lot of people returning to their birthplaces, usually villages, crashing from one house party to the next, celebrating with a lot of hot rakia for 2 days and a lot of gunfire just for kicks. Anyway, my father first told me this story while having his cousin as a guest during the celebration of House St. Nicola, and this is important because the father of his cousin is living in the village for his whole life and never moved into or near the town, and he always had all sorts of crazy and weird things happening in the village to my grandfather around this period. So, my father and my grandfather go one morning to make preparations. They clean the house, and they bring some firewood, so to get the extra firewood, they have to set off into the nearby forest. Generally around this time, how it works is that you bring logs or branches or whatever they can find that doesn't require cutting down trees. Usually they find logs from illegal forest cutting and just drag them to the house. As the day goes by, it's getting late, and now it's around 8 and it's pitch black, so they decide to head back. They are around a half-hour walking one way to get back to the house. As they're making sure that they have all their stuff, axes, ropes, and the like, a blinding red light comes through the woods, like there's a huge fire going on, but there's no sound. There's no sound of burning matter or anything. In fact, it's just dead silent. They head up to check it out, and as they go toward it, they start to feel that something is very wrong. So my grandfather panics. He pulls my dad away from the light. They pack their stuff up as fast as they can, and then storm out of there as quickly as possible. If you've ever seen Extraterrestrial, when they walk in the woods, that's what it looked like. In fact, when we were watching the movie, he got very uncomfortable at that point. Not just the red light, but the next day they decide to go again. They search the area, but there's no sign of anything. But now the issue was that several people were missing and were never seen again. I'm from Eastern Europe. My family was born and raised in a proper rural part, a place called Latgale. It's the harshest place in an already harsh and aged country. We had livable land that we frequented a lot in the 80s and 90s, even when living in the city. Nothing but trees, a few decaying farms, and maybe a few lakes. I don't have any big stories from this place, but I do have a few tidbits, I guess is the best way to describe them. The first one comes from my mother from when she was a kid and she was with my grandpa. Over the years, she's mainly refused to talk about this and even tries to play it down. But it was a yellow sunset. Grandpa was bandaging up her cut hand in an old shack a good few meters from the main house. He leaves. My mom waits there alone as it gets darker for a while. She instinctively turns her head to the window like you would if somebody had just called your name. She sees a gray and pale feminine hand that's on the glass and then moves away and waves to her. Grandpa comes back and doesn't know anything of it, even after checking the bushes. Another one from my uncle. This one could be some kind of natural phenomenon, I don't know, but he was stationed as an SSR border guard of some sort in Lithuania. A lot of the locals tell them to not stay out at night and to just leave the whole area. So at this time he was with his soldier friend. They were doing whatever the hell they were supposed to be doing at the time, and it got late. Randomly, out of nowhere, the sky lights up with numerous lights. His friend takes up his weapon, but suddenly his hands are clutched in fear. He can't move. There's red, blue, and violet patterns and blurs. His friend begins shouting out of fear, but my uncle says that there was nothing that came out of his mouth, no sound. Eventually, all the lights faded out, and suddenly all the sounds came back, including his friend yelling. And this last one, a family friend who's a fisherman and a hunter, he's reluctant in ever speaking to anyone really, but he was fishing on a cold Monday morning. He was on a raggedy boat with the lake's mist coming up. This lake is surrounded by forest. He didn't really catch any fish that day. Whenever he approached the shore, the leaves and branches would rustle as if a large animal were causing it. Slowly, this happens from shore to shore. Finally, he sees a silver light shine as if from a standing form. He thinks it's another fisherman, so he sails out there. Before he can, he sees more mist that starts to twist and turn in the sun's rising light, looking like all sorts of horrifying creatures. And then, as he's out on the water starts reacting as if there's clashing and thundering of a large storm. Yet when he looked around him, there was only a gentle breeze. He always said there was something about that lake that didn't want him there, or didn't like him. This happened way back in 2007. I was 14 years old at the time, living in Eastern Europe. I had this old witch lady as my neighbor. She was always talking crazy, but could point out groundwater just by looking at the terrain. She also had the evil eye or something. I was forced to wear a red ribbon on my arm to protect myself. For example, she visited my grandparents one time and said something about the pigs, how healthy they are. And the very next day, my grandpa found all of them dead. It was the same story with the flowers inside the house. One day, she just starts telling everyone to avoid the nearby forest, because from now on, the devil is living there. Back then, I was a big fan of ghost hunting shows. They were on every channel almost. I convinced my two cousins to team up with me and go and debunk this. So we bought some cheap flashlights and waited for night, because this is how TV professionals do their work, always at night. The moon was shining bright. We reached the edge of the forest and started yelling for the next 20 minutes, typical BS like asking for it to come out and show itself, but nothing happened. But just when we were about to leave, we heard this noise, like something big falling from a tree behind us. I turned my head and saw a man. It looked like he was covered in black ink. He just stood there, motionless, and then started walking toward us. It was like he had trouble maintaining his form, like it wasn't actually walking. He was extending his legs forward, but then dragging the rest of his body back to it, like a puppet on a string. We just ran, yelling and crying, until we reached my grandparents. We stayed there for the rest of the night. My grandma was always a religious fanatic, so we felt safe at her house. We never went back to this place again. A few weeks later, I heard a story about my friend's mother. She hopped on a bike and went to church, but she decided to use a road close to the forest to get there. Something jumped out of the trees and started chasing her. She was too scared to look behind her. All she heard was that it sounded like something was pretending to be human, but growling like an animal. There were many stories similar to this for the next 2 years, and then the woman died and all this stuff stopped. But there were 2 incidents after she passed. In the first one, her grandson started talking a whole lot of shit about her, saying that she was just a crazy old bat and all this. And then suddenly, a plate off the nearby table levitated and then broke. In the other, some kids went to the house that she lived in and tried to communicate with her using a candle and a mirror. Apparently, a disembodied voice told them to get the hell out of there. I'm Romanian, and I have a few stories, but I'll write out the scariest one that I have. Now, English isn't my first language, so you'll have to correct any mistakes I make. This happened way back when I was in high school, years ago. I live in a very small city in the middle of the mountains. I always heard kids talking about spooky stories about the hooved people when I was little, but I never had anything happen to me before this. So I was on my way to school one day. It was winter, so when I left for school at like 7 a.m., it was still dark as hell. I would usually always walk with a friend to school. You always get to see all the other kids going to school and walking as well in the morning. So I caught up with my friend, and while we were walking, I noticed that in front of us, there's a girl with a big winter coat on. Our way to school passed through this weird kind of road thing. It wasn't paved. It was between the back of some old garage and an old building that wasn't used anymore. And when we got to this road, I had to look down because there was so much snow that we had to be careful not to trip or something. I suddenly noticed that the girl in front of us is leaving hoof prints instead of normal footprints. I'm scared as hell, but I didn't want to say anything because I don't want to look like an idiot in front of my friend. I keep walking as if nothing is happening. I can't take my eyes off the girl and her footprints. It looked like she was wearing some big boots, but it also was so dark that I couldn't distinguish anything. She was walking about 10 to 15 meters in front of us. At some point, this road takes a sharp left. The hoof girl takes the left, and I lose sight of her. We take the left too, but now she's nowhere to be seen. There's no hoof prints, no footprints in the snow. They just end, and she's vanished. I try to act cool about it. I try to casually ask my friend if he saw the girl that was walking in front of us. He just replies with, "What girl?" I think this is super weird. I get to school and tell my other friends about it. All of them think I'm crazy. School is over and it's time to go home. I consider, do I want to take the long road home or the shortcut through where I saw the hoof girl? I just imagined it. Maybe there was no girl. I'll take the shortcut. So I get on the road. I'm shitting bricks the entire time, but I'm trying to act cool. And then I hear something. Someone walking behind me. It seems like that they're walking fast too. So I slowed down and moved out of the way so no one gets annoyed at me for walking slowly in front of them. But they slow down too. I slow down more. They're now getting closer, but at this point, their steps don't sound like steps anymore. It sounded like jumping. To add to it, it sounded like there was something like rattling metal, as if the person had two metal things in their hands, as if they were knocking them together each time they jumped. At this point, I'm in the middle of the road. There's about 20 centimeters of fresh snow covering the path, no footprints, so it was hard to walk as is. I freak out and start running. The jumping thing is right behind me, jumping faster, and the metal thing is getting louder. I'm 3/4 of the way out at this point. I try to look behind me with the corner of my eye, so in case I get murdered in an alley, at least I get to see what killed me first. I saw a big, brown, furry-looking thing. Thinking back, it looked exactly like the girl's coat from that morning. I didn't wait to see its head or anything more. I just took off running as fast as I could. I get out of the alley, thinking I'm finally free. I look behind me in the snow. There's no footprints other than mine. I'm thinking, okay, I'm absolutely going insane. I'm still shaking. I walk fast back home. I live in an apartment block on the 4th floor. I run up the stairs and get inside. I lock the door ASAP. I'm trying to chill and forget about what happened, obviously trying to get over the fact that I'm somehow crazy now. My room, though, is right next to the front door. I hear a sound that sounds like someone crawling on the ground right outside the door. This just drives my senses into overdrive. Whatever it is, then starts banging on the door. It sounded like it was throwing itself against it. The banging keeps going on for 10 minutes. I even got to record the sound on an old phone, and I sent it to friends so that they would know why I died, just in case. I grab a knife and was holding on to it because I was so scared that it was going to break through the door. My other thought was, boy, would Mom be pissed if I brought a supernatural hoofman home that broke our door down. And then suddenly, there's a bang, 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 3 of them, and then nothing. Everything stops. No more sounds. I keep the knife in case it's trying to trick me again. 2 hours later, my mom gets home from work. She yells to me and asks why our doormat is ripped up and thrown down the stairs. I didn't sleep for weeks, and I refused to go to school for the entire following week, and I never, ever take that shortcut again. At this point, I honestly hope that I'm just crazy, and I just imagined it all, or something. I hate the feeling that those, whatever they are, could be out there. And I guess I have another one. This one doesn't really have anything to do with hoof people, but it was still scary to me. It happened when I was a kid. I was maybe 10 or a little older. I just moved in to rent an apartment with my mom. This place was a wreck. There was no heating. The tap water was rusty. Everything was rusty and molded. But it was very cheap. Mom tells me that the last person to live in there was the landlord's mother, that she died in this house, and after that it was basically abandoned until we got there. Telling that to a kid surely won't spawn any nightmares. My alarm clock suddenly stopped working as soon as we moved in there. I was late for school every day. One day, I have a dream of an old, blazing, red-skinned woman walking through my house, sitting down on the living room couch. The first time, I didn't tell anyone about it, nor did I try to think anything about it. But fast forward a few months, and I make some new friends. One of them comes over to my house for a sleepover. In the morning, my friend wakes up and tells me that he had a nightmare of a blazing red-skinned woman looking at him while he was trying to sleep. I tell my friend that it was nothing, but internally, I shit bricks because I had that same dream multiple times. That night, I had trouble sleeping. When I finally fall asleep around 4 a.m., I wake up shortly after to a sudden noise. Back then, I had one of those really old flip phones. You were a cool kid if you had one. It had the screen in front that only showed the clock. I look at the phone. The screen is on, but there's no clock showing. It's just blank. I go to the bathroom to wash my face or something, scared and feeling like I'm losing my mind. In the bathroom, I begin hearing whispers, like there's many people talking to each other, really quietly so no one hears them. I can't even tell what they're saying. I'm 10. The only reasonable explanation is ghosts. I get scared as shit and run to my mom's door and start banging on it, screaming for her to come out. Her door doesn't have a lock, but I still couldn't open it. She doesn't respond. I try to open it again, but the door's stuck. I run back to my room and hide under the sheets, shaking. After some time, everything dies down. I'm thinking that it's finally over. I come out from under the sheets. My nightstand begins to shake as soon as I do. My phone is on the nightstand again, with the screen blank and no clock showing. I grab the phone and flip it open. The main screen turns on, but it's white and starts making this awful noise. I scaredly take the battery out of it. I'm shaking so hard at this point that I can barely do it. But the battery comes out. The screen is still on. I throw the phone into the corner of the room and start crying. I get back under the sheets and cry myself to sleep. I have dreams about an old woman, not red and on fire this time, but one that looked like that she was wearing an absurd amount of makeup. She was blue and black all around the eyes, and smeared lipstick all over her mouth and chin. She was sitting on the edge of my bed this time. That morning, I wake up, hoping that the entire night has just been a nightmare. But then, I see my phone taken apart in the corner of my room. I see my nightstand out of place. I go and ask my mom if she heard me banging on her door last night or if she put something in front of it so I couldn't get in. She said no, and says that she didn't even hear me banging on the door. I tell Grandma this whole story, and she refuses to let me stay there one more night. I end up moving in with her. It turns out that the landlord's mother didn't just die in the house, she was killed. So those encounters were pretty strange and terrifying, weren't they? If one of them stuck out to you in particular, let me know which one it was down in the comments. And if you have one of your own from Eastern Europe, or just one of your own in general, feel free to send it to the email that I have in the description. And if you would like to donate to the channel, I have a PayPal and a Patreon down in the description as well. And of course, here on YouTube, there's super thanks and now memberships. But as always, don't forget to like and subscribe and turn on notifications and all that good stuff. And comment on the video. It helps the algorithm and all that stuff, I guess. So I hope you enjoyed the video, and I hope you'll enjoy the videos upcoming this week. As always, thank you for pulling up a stump with me, and thank you for watching. I'll see you Friday.